NATO, right? Makes it a point to say that right now NATO is the biggest, strongest force ever aligned and put together in the world right now. I promise you, any of these countries is attacked by China, they have no response unless we get involved.
Totally, yeah.
The fact that they allow this much to take place in Ukraine without directly saying, if you don't stop, even though this is not a nation that is part of NATO, we are going to intervene. I think that at that point, this language was absolutely needed. The fact that all the people are joining in when the other guy is calling that a provocation, right? Which means that he can very easily continue to expand the fight. Now, everybody's saying, well, what we want is for Russia to be fighting with his own neighbor. No, what we want for Russia is to not fight with anybody.
Yeah.
To have an economical, political, reasonable economic relationship with everybody. That's what we're looking for. I don't know if you, I know that you mentioned that the Prime Minister of Sweden was there, who now was
Right.
also accepted. I mean, 2 new countries
right.
had been formulated.
So here's the deal with NATO, right? And this is going to segue into our next segment perfectly, which is, look, you can, because you were talking about the U.S. being the flag carrier for NATO, and it's like without the U.S., there's really not a whole lot of
He
strength.
made a claim. He made a claim, though. He made a claim that it was right now
Very
is the
well
largest
operated.
assembled
Right.
army
Right.
that is dead. And I'm listening to this whole thing. I said, is that with or without us?
So watch this,
Uh,
because everybody's saying the economy is doing perfect. Everybody's saying the S&P 500 is an indicator of, hang on, the S&P 500 is an indicator of growth. But think about what's really happening. They call these companies the Mac 7, is it? Is it the
Right.
top 7? What is the Magnificent 7?
correct.
What is it? Is Alphabet, aka Google, Tesla, Nvidia, who everybody's talking about Nvidia right now, right? Apple, Meta, Amazon, and I'm missing one, Microsoft. Okay, those are the 7 companies that are the equivalent right now of the U.S. and NATO. Everybody else is hurting. Everybody else is on the negative. So it's very naive for you to believe that NATO is in a healthy place, just like it's very naive for anybody to believe that the economy and the S&P 500 is in a healthy place just because there's 7 companies out of 500 that are actually running at a profit.
So what happens if NVIDIA that just did this?
That's the same
Does
thing
this.
going down. Exactly. We're shit out of luck for a little bit. We're back in 08. We're back in 2022. We're back in pre-pandemic with no hope of whoop in an election year. By the way,
But guys, listen. Here's my issue, right? The thing is, I'm one of those guys who actually believe that at this point, somebody like Vladimir Putin is no longer a good idea. Believe it or not, there was at some point that I used to say, this guy is actually standing for something.
you have a video.
I actually have a video about it, right? So, I mean, but it's interesting to understand what was the issue? What is the deficiency? Is it really a matter of all these other countries, getting too close to him as he's claiming? Everybody keep, the encroachment argument, right? Everybody keeps getting closer to us. But at the end of the day, I do want to see Ukraine like getting to the next level, being able to actually win the war. I know that sounds a little naive when you're thinking about the fact that right now, I don't care what anybody says, they're taking a beating, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And somebody said something that was very powerful the other day. They are actually losing the next generation is being lost right now in Ukraine. That's a big statement. Every young man who obviously has the ability to be fighting is losing them. My issue is I will give all the support that is needed to Ukraine if the level of corruption was not taking place. The people that are right now leading that country also it's like super corrupted, you know what I mean? So what are we doing? We throwing money at a problem with no supervision, so we don't, obviously it's not going to get fixed, right? The other thing is that whether anybody likes it or not, what's in question here is the relationship of the Biden family with this group of corrupt people from Ukraine, precisely. So you keep throwing money at them. Monies are showing up on different accounts. It's like you're talking about the ultimate game of money laundering that's taking place in front of everybody's eyes. I don't have a problem supporting Ukraine. I don't have a problem saying let's put the weapons, let's put everything that is needed so that Russia actually says, wow, we do have limits to what we can actually do here. But it's not going to happen. The way it is, it's not going to happen with this group of people. So unless that changes, And how is that going to change? Well, there's got to be a president who literally will demand, because right now they're also suspending elections in Ukraine until the war
Right.
is over.
Right.
Well, now you have a vested interest not to end the war.
Right.
Potential
Siphon.
new dictatorship that
Yeah.
is emerging out of the whole. It's not a pretty picture, no matter. So that's a black eye for the administration,
Yeah.
right? So the claim that here we are, we're doing these things too.
By the way, can
not
I say
working out.
something?
Yeah.
Well, so for me, for somebody that runs on everybody should pay their fair share.
Correct.
Where is the freaking fair share out of NATO?
I mean, believe it or not.
You know, if the whole concept applies in here for the people that are actually moving the economy and doing everything, you understand, right? Because tax the rich. Well, what about NATO? You know,
NATO
It's
members
like-
right now will admit the fact that they are absolutely contributing more money right now because of Donald Trump. Essentially forcing, saying, hey, you got to do your part.
Yeah.
And they decided to, they finally made but still not at the level that it's supposed to be, but
Right.
1,000 times better than what it was prior to Donald Trump. Again, that's not, listen, guys, we're going through a list of things that the administration claimed. Look how many things we're doing right. I promise you that this whole situation with say her name type moment that took place there, this is going to come back aggressively. The mother of this young lady
Yeah.
literally called the president pathetic for not being able to say her name correctly. Again, instead of calling her, Lakin, she called him like Lincoln, you know what I mean? And so, got the last name correct, Riley, but the first name, he just couldn't say it properly. So she was saying,
And it wasn't
you
Gertrudis.
couldn't even say, exactly,
Yeah,
such
right.
a unique name, you can,
Right.
it's so pathetic. Those are moments because they were trying to use, well, the female vote is going to be the one defining, well, women right now are not feeling too safe out there. And so, but anyway, what's your take on this whole situation with NATO, Ukraine?
Yes.
That's a big claim. We doing everything that we got to do.
Yeah, so for me, I think, once again, anything that's connected to war in any way, shape, or form, and us spending money on things like what's going on with Ukraine and Russia, I think it's a lose-lose no matter how you flip it, twist it, or turn it. I see zero scenario where even if everybody in NATO backs Ukraine, Ukraine is going to come out of this in a better position. I think it's not going to be good for them no matter what, So I feel like it's never a good scenario when we're in a situation like we're in, because it's going to be bad. It's going to get worse before it gets better, And as far as what you're talking about, everybody paying their fair share, America is the biggest person in there, so
they are taxing the rich.
Correct.
We always made the biggest contribution.
Yeah,
We
so-
are the
so
biggest
that-
contribution
yeah.
to the United Nations. We are the biggest contribution. Any of these entities out there. By the way, today there are countries that are wealthier than we are, and we're still making the biggest contribution in all these entities. So
Yeah.
but that was definitely not a good argument. The economy, I'll be honest with you though. I mean, you highlighted something extremely important. For me, it's very simple. $40 trillion on national debt at this point. And growing, and out of control, and not sustainable, and impossible to pay for. At this point,
So-
we're going to have no choice but to go to war with China so that we don't have to pay them. We got to go to war with all these countries that we owe money to.
Yeah.
You know?
84,000 layoffs in the first 45 days of the year. 100,000 by now? Over
Correct.
100,000 by now?
So what I'm seeing is something different. I feel like if the average person looks at, not their pockets. If you look at your pockets, you're broke, right?
Yeah.
But if the average person watches the news is telling a different story, right? So I got a couple things that I was looking at. So right now they were saying how the S&P, it was up 24% in 2023. So far for this year, it's already up 6.5%, right? With 15 record closes
Record
this year.
numbers.
This year alone,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's called NVIDIA.
Yep. 9 out of 11 sectors are up.
Stop
they said.
complaining about the
Right,
eggs.
exactly. Yeah, Bitcoin hit its highest ever.
Yes, yes.
When that was in
Oh,
March.
so far,
It at
The
68,000.
last 18 months, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It had 68,000. Right, and then also when it comes to just our growth, according to all the countries that are part of G7. America is leading in that category. Obviously, certain countries are not a part of that. But so when I look at these numbers, the economy's doing great. We winning, And then even this is not to. I'm just being the devil's advocate. But even what you said, the top 7. The top 7, I think, represent like over 30% of the total. So even though it's only 7 companies, I find that's a big chunk, right? And not only that, Jeff Bezos just became the richest man in the world again. So
Again.
according to him, the economy's doing great.
Phenomenal.
You know,
You're
so
right.
it's a messed up situation. I feel like the richest people in America are doing better. America as a whole may be doing worse. So then now, if I hear that America's doing great and I know I'm not doing great, then now I'm like, okay, so then who are you representing and
So,
what is?
so hang on though.
Yeah,
Let
yeah.
me play devil's advocate
Yeah.
because you run a business,
Yep.
right? So let me ask you, how do you feel comfortable if you have 100 people and they each do 1%? That each one of those clients represent 1% of your business,
Yeah.
or you have 7 people that represent 50% of your business.
No, trust me, I'd much rather the 100. But if right now my 7 people is making me more money than I ever made in my life, I'm not mad.
Making who?
Me.
Who?
Me, the business.
Okay, so how do we translate that to like
correct. So
everybody else?
I got you,
Because
but look,
that's the people that are voting.
yeah, but that's
And they're
not
voting.
the ones who's coming up with the reports now. Because if I'm the one
You're right. Yeah,
coming
you're
up with the
right.
report and I'm doing
Pay
better
attention.
and I'm doing better than ever, right?
Yeah, of
Then
course.
my business is doing great. I don't care how many people are still struggling at home. I don't care how many. I'm just saying I don't care. Guys. I just say.
This conversation is being recorded.
True colors coming out
Alexi
there.
really doesn't care. He's doing very well for himself.
But the thing is, but if I run a business and my business is doing better than ever, I'm not that concerned about the people who are helping my business run, as long as I know the business as a whole is doing better. Now, because at the end of the day, if I'm doing better as the owner, I can create better incentives. I can create better programs to help those people overall. But I'm not mad. I'm not mad. And so if that's what I'm saying.
So you're highlighting something that right now, essentially one of the biggest arguments that I always make is that the Democrats somewhere somehow found a way to hijack this idea that they are the political group that is pro working class. When at the same time, what you highlighted right now is that the rich are getting richer, they're getting wealthier, they doing very well in this economy, better than they were doing even with the Trump economy.
Correct.
The problem is that the gap between
It's crazy.
the wealthy and the poor is getting bigger just because the middle class is actually, they are doing a phenomenal job decimating the middle
Correct,
class,
yeah, I agree.
while at the same time making the argument that they are for the middle class. These guys are unbelievable,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
everybody's buying into that because now, listen, happy for Jeff Bezos. I'm one of those guys that I'm always happy for the guy who's doing well.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Of course.
I'll never go back and say, oh no, there was a couple of politicians the other day saying nobody should have that much money to be a billionaire.
Bernie Sanders.
If you didn't figure out that you found a way to make 400 million,
Yeah.
you haven't been able to get to the $1 billion. But I'm sure if you had the way to get there, you will be pursuing it.
Correct.
Hypocrite. But the fact of the matter is that let's go back to the people that are not doing well. Let's go back to the comments of the person who just got another job, just got multiple jobs, working 7 days a week. The people that at this point who go to the supermarket, they're actually buying less. They're becoming more efficient about this. No such a thing as let me just buy things to bring to the house, and if I feel like it, I will eat them on that. Like people right now are getting to like this is the conversation that are taking place at the supermarket level, which is the people that we deal with. You know what I mean? It's the people day in and day out constantly saying not enough money, not enough money, not enough money. Why? Everything still is 40% higher than what it was before we went into pandemic. That hasn't changed, right? And so that also is not a good argument when it comes to it. Now, how are they going to be able to sell it and how people are going to buy into these things? If I'm a guy who has absolutely no way to benefit, I don't even have a 401k, they could keep talking about S&P 500. You know what I mean? Because that's the only way. Either I own the stocks,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
I'm getting dividends, or my stock value is growing, or I happen to have some kind of retirement structure, 401k, 403b, that is going to allow me to see the benefit of the stock market going up. If I don't have any of those things,
like what's the
you
benefit?
can be celebrating until the cows come
Yeah,
home.
true.
By the way, this is my 20 minutes of Joe Biden energy. We're going to slow it down a little bit just because, I want to make sure that we Just like him, now I'm going to start saying things that most people won't be able to understand. No, let me stop it. Anyway,
But
the last issue.
all jokes aside,
Mhm.
I was down in Miami last night, and we had one of those places one of those places now where the place is made by the server.
Mhm.
It was one of those things. And you can see this young lady, and she had like the best energy, and she was on top of it, and you can see that she was pursuing something. I'm like, how long have you been doing? I've been in the country for 8 years. As right now, I was doing okay. I was trying to start something. I'm at a point right now where if I don't work 7 days in my 3 jobs, I'm unable to make ends meet. That wasn't my reality before. But I feel like I'm getting squeezed more and more and more.
I'll give you an example. We just went to a restaurant right now. We went to a restaurant, and normally, based on the amount of people that I cover, would have been probably about $300. I spend over $500 right now. Just like
Your
that.
bill double.
Yeah.
Basically.
Literally,
Yeah.
essentially, almost got to the point. I was like, this is the new reality.
I agree.
How do you do that with consistency in a way that you can still have that level of bonding or family time or business? At some point, you say, you know what? We're gonna start to
Less people.
start going somewhere else, or less people, or let whatever. Like people right now
Tacos.
are looking tacos. Listen, $1.25.
They're
tacos
not
now.
$1.25 anymore.
Don't tell
I
me
hate
that
to
those
break
things
it to
went
you.
up.
Yes.
They
By the
were
way,
they were a
they
dollar
were
tacos.
$1 at some point.
Went up to $1.25.
What is
And
it
that
now?
was heartbreaking.
What is it now?
They're like, depends. It's
Oh,
like
okay.
$1.50, $1.75.
Depends on what you order. But
Crazy.
my point to you
Yeah.
guys is there is a very large group of people that either they just don't vote at all, or some of the people that will go and actually cast a vote, they are doing it based on the fact that they were sold the idea that the economy is doing well, but it's almost like they are not accepting. It's like somebody that decided to at least diet for one day, and they're already looking at themselves in the mirror saying, I look like I lost 20 pounds, but you're still the exact same fat guy that you were before that. How can you not notice that you really haven't seen any benefits to
getting
yourself, to
squeezed.
your family, that
Yeah.
you're still suffering? That's a painful thing, though, that to be willfully just blind and lying to yourself. Like
Yeah, but
these
that
guys,
happens.
their job is to lie to you. Their
Correct.
job is, I'm gonna make you see this thing like but
Yeah.
anyway. The final thing, guys, is the whole issue about immigration is the fact that for 3 years nonstop, the narrative was everything is fine. There's nothing wrong. We got it under control. Everything is
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
We got everything is under control. There's nothing wrong. There's no crisis. There's no issue. Today is the crisis that we have taken. Finally, at least got to the point of accepting the fact
Yeah.
that there is a crisis that is out of control. And they're saying, well, these bad Republicans. I don't know how anybody can reconcile those things. And I think that
Yeah.
people are just not buying it.
I think they are. Unfortunately,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I think they are. I'm serious. We were having a conversation just recently, and what happens is people forget 6 months ago. Like when things are going good right now, people forget that. Wait a minute, it wasn't like this a year ago, or it wasn't like this 6 months ago. So I think most people, not everybody, but most people will forget everything that Biden was saying for the last 3 years
Yeah.
and only paying attention to what he's saying today. And it's unfortunate that most people are that naive or that gullible to where they'll just listen to whatever a person says, not realizing that, wait a minute, that's not your true thoughts. There's actually an election coming up, and now you have to say what you think. Exactly, correct. So that's what's happening. But I think most people will eat it up. It's because that's what you want. Like, I want you to lie to me and tell me what I want to hear, so that I can feel good about, because I'm gonna vote for you either way. But I want to at least feel good about doing it, so I need you to lie to me. So I think they're going to accept it.
So you voting for Biden?
No.
I thought you going for Trump. I'm telling you, going for Trump. I knew it.
Are you voting this year, though?
I don't know. I
He
gotta see.
doesn't
Who
know.
makes
You
it
see,
to then.
he's
But I'll tell you this. I will say I'm not voting for Biden. Definitely not. That's
Okay.
definitely not happening.
He's gonna
If
be
nothing
voting
else, because his age
for,
alone.
what is it, John
disqualifies him.
Bergen? What
It's not
is
gonna be.
that?
It's not gonna be
Disqualifies
Robert
him.
Kennedy Jr.
I
It's not
know.
gonna be-
That's
God.
hopefully that'll be great.